Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Michael Boyd. I'm here with Read, Remember, Repeat. And we just want to let you guys know, we could be doing something selfish, things for ourselves, right? But we started a charity, and this is very unselfish on our part, because what we want to do is give back to the kids, the youth, the orphanage, the homeless, the people that don't have those new ideas because they're stuck in a revolving door. So what we want you guys to do is definitely reach out to us. This is the link right here. Help us save a lot.
The streets, it's smoking in these. Some youngers at beast, they killing the beast. Hard to compete, better not sleep. They come see a piece, then I repeat. Blowing the money I'm getting from winning. Hating me now, you see me, you get it. Talking so cheap, wonder what I'm listening.
Salute, family. It is your host with the most, Michael Boyd, and we are still here. We are back with Read, Remember, Repeat. And I'm not gonna lie, man. I know I'm gonna address the elephant in the room. We ain't been here in a minute, you know what I mean? And just been handling things, man. Going through some things in life. I ain't gonna lie, man. I even was feeling like I wanted to quit, you know what I mean? Like, and not quit, going up the ladder, but just the whole reading in front of the camera, and you know what I mean, because I had things that I had to do, and sometimes I got to pull back from social media, you know what I mean? So forgive me, you know what I mean? I'm still here with y'all, you know what I mean? And definitely pushing the envelope for more books to be read, you know what I mean? And making reading fun again, you know what I mean? So y'all know we left off on the Go-Giver, and if you was listening, I apologize again, because I got some more for y'all, you know what I mean? And yeah, man, the Go-Giver, we left off on the second law, the law of compensation. It's getting nippy out now, you know what I mean? So everybody stay warm. Yeah, we in November, man. Let's finish out strong for the end of the year. So, chapter 6, right? It's called Serving Coffee, right? And if y'all left off before this, or y'all was listening before this, he met with countless people that was a part of the plan that Penda was showing him, you know what I mean? And man, this book is amazing. Well, let's get it. Serving Coffee. The ride out of town was quiet. A friend of Penda's had dropped him off at Learning Systems for Children earlier, so Joe was now giving him a ride back home. Penda seemed content to watch the scenery go by, leaving Joe to his own thoughts, just as he had done after his lunch with Ernesto. Joe now retraced his conversation with Nicole Martin, trying to understand everything he'd heard. What made this young woman rise to such astonishing success? Was it as simple as what she called the law of compensation? When Joe pulled into Penda's driveway to drop off his host, Rachel was standing at the front door, holding a small package. Penda hopped out, and Joe leaned over to call out to Rachel through the open door. "Great lunch, Rachel." "Thanks a million." Rachel approached the car and handed the package to Joe. "You're welcome." The aroma announced itself immediately. It was a pound of Rachel's famous coffee, freshly ground for Joe. On his drive back to work, Joe thought about Nicole Martin, CEO of the kindergarten boardroom, and wondered how on earth he could possibly apply the law of compensation. He was still wrestling with these thoughts when he hit the up button on the elevator that took him to the 7th floor at Clayson Hill Trust. That afternoon, Melanie Matthews sat buried in concentration over her quarter end reports when she was surprised by the most delicious aroma. She looked up and was startled to see Joe with a cup of fresh, steaming coffee for her. "Touch of half and half, 1 sugar," he noted aloud as he placed it carefully on her desk. This was exactly how Melanie liked her coffee, though she couldn't remember having ever mentioned this to Joe. And that incredible aroma, she thanked him and took a sip. It was the very best coffee she had ever tasted. Over the next 30 minutes, Joe took a cup of the hot, delicious coffee to each worker on the entire 7th floor. A few of them he knew well, some he knew only vaguely, some he never even met. All were equally surprised and pleased to find this young go-getter taking the time to serve them fresh coffee as they each wrestled with their own third quarter deadline workloads. One or two looked downright puzzled as they nodded their mute thanks, thinking, wonder what's gotten into him. When Joe arrived back at his own desk with the last cup, Gus sat waiting for him. Gus, you want another cup? Thanks, but I'm fine. Gus sat back in his chair and looked at Joe with curiosity. Okay, said Joe. You know the guy I asked you about last week? Pender? Well, this weekend I went to see him. Ah, said Gus. And this is what? Something like homework? Joe shrugged. More or less. Yesterday I had to give more in value that I got in payment. Ah, the lead you gave to Jim Galloway, Joe blushed. So Gus had overheard him doing that. Today I had to enlarge the number of people I serve. Gus let out a quiet laugh. So you served your colleagues coffee? Right. Joe looked around the floor. Think it'll turn those third quarter figures around? Gus peered at him closely and realized he was joking. Hey, Joe added, it's the only thing I could think of. Besides, it's not just coffee. It's Rachel's famous coffee. Gus smiled and got to his feet. I'm glad you went to see the man, Joe. Tell me something. Sure. What? Gus looked around the office. How did it feel serving all those people? Joe followed his gaze and looked back in the other man's eyes. Tell you the truth, I felt like an idiot. Gus laughed again, then leaned forward and said, sometimes you feel foolish, even look foolish, but you do the thing anyway. And with that, he plucked his tweed jacket from the coat rack on the wall outside his office and headed for home. 7, chapter 7, Rachel. So we're going to jump into the source time. Y'all already know if y'all been here before. If you haven't, we're going to give y'all a little bit of, you know what I mean, source that we find on the internet. And boom, man, you already know, man. This show is all about learning, so get your notes. Let's get it.
Are you fucking serious? You mean God believe in us and you playing with this shit? These motherfuckers don't believe in us and God did. Get your shit together, go fucking even harder because he believed. That's the shit I'm on. Are you fucking serious? Are you fucking serious? You mean God believe in us and you playing with this shit? These motherfuckers don't believe in us and God did. Get your shit together, go fucking even harder because he believed. That's the shit I'm on. Are you fucking serious?
And we are back, family. Back with the Go Giver. We are on chapter 7, Rachel. I miss doing this with you guys. You know what I mean? Reading on my own is cool. But I miss, just being able to help other people. You know what I mean? Like he said, you got to serve without compensation. You know what I mean? And this is great. This is great. Let's get it. When Joe appeared at Pender's house at noon the next day, Rachel showed him into the study and offered him a cup of coffee, which Joe accepted gratefully. The old man will be right along, Rachel said and chuckled. You know, said Joe, I think that's the 3rd or 4th time I've heard that. The old man. Why does everyone keep calling him that? And what's the big joke? Rachel sat down the small tray she was carrying and leaned against one of the huge wingback chairs. How old would you say he is? She asked. Gosh, I don't know, 50, 59, early 60s maybe? Close, Rachel grinned. 78. You're kidding, exclaimed Joe. And even though he's in his late 70s, he's one of the youngest people I know. Have you noticed how energetic and enthusiastic he is? How curious and how interested he always seems? Joe nodded. I'll tell you what, Rachel went on. He does more travels, and accomplishes more than most men half his age. None of us can keep up with him. Really. Pender didn't strike Joe as the driving type, but he always seemed so relaxed. Rachel laughed. Of course, he seems relaxed. He is relaxed. Whoever said being anxious gets more accomplished, Joe had to admit she had a point. He had always taken it for granted that getting a lot done invariably meant a high level of stress. But then he knew plenty of people who were thoroughly stressed out, yet didn't really accomplish that much. Who are you going to see today? Rachel asked. Sam, his financial advisor. Ah, Sam, Rachel smiled to herself. You're going to love Sam. So I've heard, thought Joe. Of course he will. Pender stood, beaming at the study door. Everyone loves Sam. The moment he heard that storyteller's voice, Joe felt himself relax. He noticed it had the same effect on Rachel, too. He suspected it had the effect on everyone. As Joe nosed his car past the big wrought iron gates and pointed it toward downtown, he thought about his brief conversation with Rachel, and he asked Pender about her. Rachel came from a poor neighborhood and began working to help support her family. When she was just 15 years old, she took work doing anything and everything. She cleaned houses, landscaped, answered phones, waited tables, short order cooked, worked construction, painted houses, and more. Eventually, she put herself through college of this diverse collection of jobs. Some of these tasks she enjoyed more than others. However, she approached each one as though she loved it. She did this by reminding herself that regardless of how much or how little she cared for the task itself, she relished the opportunity to survive, save, and serve. Survive, save, and serve. Joe interrupted. Sounds like a motto. It easily could be, agreed Pender. They are the three universal reasons for working. Survive, to meet your basic living needs. Save, to go beyond your basic needs and expand your life. And serve, to make a contribution to the world around you. Joe thought of Nicole Martin's reflection on her own early fear of success. It wasn't serving, she said. Unfortunately, continued Pender, most people spend their entire lives focusing on the first. A small number focus on the second, but those rare few who are truly successful, not just financially, but genuinely successful in all aspects of their lives, keep their focus squarely on the third. Survive, save, and serve. Joe let the three words roll around in his mind as Pender continued the story of Rachel. About a year ago, Pender had bought some books at a local bookseller where Rachel had worked her way up to cafe manager. After making his purchase, he stopped by the cafe for a cup of coffee. I'm just starting a fresh pot, Rachel told him. If you're not in a hurry, why don't you make yourself comfortable on any of the reading sofas, and I'll bring you a cup as soon as it's ready. Pender was impressed with the young woman's manner. He was even more impressed when he actually tasted the coffee. Rachel had an undeniable knack for making truly wonderful coffee. She had an instinct for selecting, blending, roasting, and grinding the beans to bring out their finest flavors and aromas. She had a master craftsman feel for the perfect balance of time and temperature. She knew how to keep the machine sparkling clean and free of any buildup of bitter oils, and how to select the purest sources of water. Her coffee always tasted delicious, better than delicious. Whenever people ask her for her secret, Pender told Joe, she laughs and says she's 1/8 Colombian. Pender and his wife happened to be looking for someone to replace their personal chef who had just been offered a position running the kitchen at a 5-star hotel. As far as Pender was concerned, anyone who knew how to cook and could make coffee this good would be the perfect replacement. And since she had just completed her final term at college, she was available. He hired Rachel on the spot. The young woman quickly became a hit with the steady stream of business associates who passed through Pender's home, including the CEOs of some of the nation's largest companies. A few even hinted that they might try to hire Rachel away from Pender, but he jokingly warned them that if they even tried, they would no longer be privy to his consulting services. One CEO, after hearing this, took a long, thoughtful sip of famous coffee and murmured, "Yes, well, I might just have to live with that." Pender roared at this punchline, and Joe laughed along with him. He also had the sense that there was more to Rachel's story, but it would have to wait. They had arrived at their destination. Family, we are on page 59, chapter 8, The Law of Influence. Tap back into the other episodes before that. I'm no expert. I'm just giving y'all some of the books that I read that I believe, are amazing for your ears and to give you new ideas. But once again, we at the end of this show. Read, remember, repeat. Read, remember, repeat. Read, remember, repeat.
We keep the party jumping. We out here getting money. We ain't worried about nothing. We keep it jumping. We keep the party jumping. We keep it jumping. We keep the party jumping. We keep it jumping. We keep the party jumping. We out here getting money. We ain't worried about nothing. All the stats to get blown, collecting my money, we up in his own motivation to win it. Opponents kill him, one mission succeed. No lie that I'm on the bottom of the streets. It's more getting these. Some youngers are beasts, they killing the beast. Hard to compete, better not sleep. It comes to your peace, then I repeat. Blowing the money I'm getting from winning. Hating me now, you see me, you get it. Talking so cheap, wonder why I don't listen. I'm starting so swaggy, so bright for my